Warning. The Christian Patriot Report is a no-holds-barred, unapologetic show that will easily trigger those that get offended by the truth. Viewers and listeners' discretion is advised. And welcome, everyone, to the Christian Patriot Report. I'm your host, Don Gardner. And on today's show, we got a big show for you today because we got to talk about the most radical ticket running for president in 2024. But first, let's deal with what happened the past couple weeks, because between this show and the last show, a lot has happened. We've had an assassination attempt on President Trump. We've had the Secret Service director have to resign. And we thought President Biden was going to be running for president in 2024, and he said he would be, but turns out he's dropped out and is replaced with the Vice President Kamala Harris. And I'm sure I'm going to butcher Kamala's name or whatever, however way you pronounce it. Because honestly, I don't care. Because she's worse as a candidate for president than even Biden. I mean, at least Biden has an excuse. He's battling some kind of mental problem. Harris, there's no excuse. There's no excuse for her radical agenda. And then she turns around and she picks a running mate, the governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz. That honestly, this is the most radical ticket that has ever been created in the history of America. And we will talk about some of the things that they want to do. And we're going to deal with a lot of the radical agenda that she's going to be pushing and that this ticket is going to be pushing. But first, let's talk about the RNC, because the RNC was a couple weeks ago. And let's face it, they did well. They did well. I was only able to watch maybe one night of the RNC because, like most conservatives, we got to work. So, being that I work nights, there are sometimes I could catch the RNC and what some of the speeches were and what some of the candidates were talking about and what some of the great Republican politicians were saying and some of the agenda that they were pushing. I was able to catch some of it. And the one night, it was pretty interesting seeing how the RNC, the feel of the place, some of the politicians they brought out to talk. And so we're going to play some of the speeches from the RNC that I think we need to highlight. And the first one, they brought out a 98-year-old veteran that gave one heck of a speech. But we're going to play a little bit of the speech. Here is this 80, not 80. I'm sorry. I misspoke. He's actually 98 years old. Here's this veteran. Let's listen to what this man has to say.
That's the attitude that saved the free world. And those years ago, and President Trump back in Commander-in-Chief, I would go back to re-enlist today. And I would storm whatever beach my country needs me to fight again. God bless you.
Amazing speech that he gave. And he definitely got the crowd going. Now, do I believe that he would actually re-enlist? I don't think he would be able to, but that's a nice sentiment. That shows the difference between a veteran that fought during the time that he served compared to today. And you'll see that, honestly, I would believe under the current administration, this veteran would not want to go back to the military under the command of some of the generals that are in command right now. Because the rules of engagement that he fought under are no longer being implemented. That's why we have these wars. That's why the war on terror took so long. Took 20 years to defeat the Taliban, and yet we didn't even win. There was no victory in that, right? Now, when this man served, we won wars. It's not happening today. But that was just one of the speeches that I wanted to highlight, because there's another one. I'm just going to call this the most powerful speech that was given at the RNC. I mean, I could try to set it up and say just how great and how moving this speech was, but I'm just going to let you guys listen to it, and hopefully the audio plays.
My son, Sergeant Hassan Korea, an Afghanistan War retired veteran. He received enemy fire from the Taliban, only to be murdered with a knife on the streets of New York City. The 4 assailants responsible for his death initially were facing justice, but that changed when District Attorney Alvin Bragg was elected. Suddenly, 2 of the homicidal maniacs responsible for my son's death had their gang assault and murder charges completely dismissed. I later learned that Alvin Bragg, he wants to clear the jails and return violent felons onto our streets every day. I don't want anyone else to experience the senseless pain that many other victims across this United States of America have to live with every day. So I decided to use the voice that God gave me to be the voice for the voiceless across America. We need justice for victims, and we need accountability for prosecutors who fail in their duty. Soft on crime prosecutors like Alvin Bragg in New York, Kim Fox in Chicago, and George Gascon in Los Angeles have turned our great country and cities into war zones. And who else in here is sick and tired of being sick and tired?
I know I am.
The Democratic Party that poor minorities have been loyal to for decades, including myself, all right? They betrayed us. They stabbed us in the back. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, who claim to represent us, have abandoned us. They neglected the poor minority communities across America. But mine eyes have been opened. Donald Trump shares our values, love of God and family and country. He's been a victim of the same corrupt system that I have been and my family has been. Trump was right when he said, they're after us. He's just standing in the way. That's why I'm standing with him today. Let's make America safe again and re-elect our Donald J. Trump.
Yeah, that was a powerful, very powerful speech that she gave. And she's right. She addressed the major issue that is going on in this country. District attorneys that are backed by George Soros and his organization have completely destroyed the cities that they're supposed to serve. They don't prosecute criminals. They don't. They don't do their jobs. And you see what's happening. You see the results of their failed policies and their neglect on their cities. Now, there is one more speech from the RNC that I wanted to highlight. Because honestly, the night that I got to see the RNC and got to watch pretty much all of it until it got way too late, and let's face it, some people have to go to bed. But I can't exactly not play this speech knowing that I'm a big fan of this individual. So I'm not going to set it up. Let's just play it and let's see, let's listen to what this individual had to say at the RNC.
But what happened last week when they took a shot at my hero and they tried to kill the next president of the United States? Enough was enough. And I said, let Trumpomania run wild, brother. Let Trumpomania rule again. Let Trumpomania make America great again.
You got to love that. I'm sorry. I'm a Hulkamaniac. I am. I grew up watching wrestling, and unfortunately, I know I live in South Carolina today, but I grew up in New York. In New York, it was all about the WWF, or now WWE. And it was all about Hogan, Hulk Hogan, the Hulkster. That's who I liked. That's who I rooted for. So I could not play that. I just could. Come on. I had to. I could not just. It's like the little kid when he came walking out. I was like, seriously? Because before that, Linda McMahon also came out, did her speech, and then a little couple of speeches later, out came Hogan. And I said, who's next? Vince McMahon? I mean, what? Glenn Jacobs going to come out? The Undertaker going to come out? I mean, these are people that support Donald Trump, so it would make sense for them to come out, right? But Hogan did good. And I know there are times with Hogan that I couldn't agree with him politically on some of the things. And I know he's with us. Is he a conservative? I don't know. I don't really know his politics, but it was fun. The kid in me came back out when he came out and did the whole entire speech. And then, of course, did what he normally does, Hulk out, rip his shirt, that type of thing. Hey, that's just fun. And I know he got a lot of flack for it, but who cares? It's Hogan. If you look in the back, for those of you watching the show, you'll see posters of Hogan. I'm a big Hulkamaniac. So, and at that point in time, we would have thought, you know what? Let's set our sights on Biden. Let's go, because we got Donald Trump as our candidate. He picked J.D. Vance as his running mate. Very good pick. I don't know much about J.D. Vance. I have since learned I like J.D. I like him. He may not have been my number one pick, but as I listen to more and more interviews with J.D., the more I like him. I like him as a candidate because I do know there are people that have issues with, some of my friends are having issues with him as far as, religion-wise. Is he a Christian? Is he a Catholic? Is he a Hindu? What is he? And all I would tell him is this, because I know that supposedly he's a Christian, and I know he's married to someone from India who's a Hindu. And if you are a born-again Christian, you're not supposed to get married or get into a relationship with someone from another religion. That's becoming unequally yoked to them. And the Bible warns what happens if a believer becomes unequally yoked with an unbeliever. Now, all I would tell him is this. JD is running for Vice President of the United States, not spiritual advisor to you. So I wouldn't really hold much criticism for him to, becoming unequally yoked to someone. That just shows that spiritually, he may not have that great of a discernment. But as a vice president candidate, he's very good. And he's more than adequate to get the job done as vice president. I mean, heck, he couldn't do any worse than Kamala Harris, right? Who, by the way, Biden, who said a month ago or so, I'm going to run for president. I'm running. And then he got COVID. And then over that weekend, a letter came out that was signed, that whether it was his signature or not, I don't know, because it didn't look like it. Didn't look like his signature, but he has dropped out. He has chose to not run for president of the United States. He hasn't. He's dropping out. He's getting out of the race. And instead, we get to have the vice president, Kamala Harris, the most radical senator in the history of the Senate, as a candidate for president. So who is this vice president? Who, was she in charge of the border or not? I don't know. The media would like you to believe that she had nothing to do with the border. But let's face it, the media, ever since they named Harris as the replacement for Biden, they have done everything. They have worked overtime trying to rebrand her. Because when you pick the most radical senator in the history of the Senate, I mean, this is someone, if you think about it, she was further left than even Bernie Sanders, who's a known socialist. And when you start digging into a lot of her policies and the things she wants to do, it should scare you to think this is who the Democrats are going with. So, who is Kamala Harris or Kamala Harris or however way you want to pronounce it? Because apparently, if you don't pronounce it right, you are a racist. That's what the media is going to say. I'm a racist. Yeah, you could take that crap and you could stick it where the sun doesn't shine. Because, oh, she's the first black vice president or Indian or whatever the heck she is. Who cares what the color of her skin is, what her gender is? Who cares what her nationality is? Who cares? Her mother is from India. Her father is from Jamaica. Who cares? What she is the most radical candidate for president in American history. But let's meet who is the real Kamala Harris.
We need to get radical about what we are doing and take it seriously.
As President of the United States, I am prepared to get rid of the filibuster to pass a Green New Deal. There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. We have to have a buyback program, and I support a mandatory buyback program.
I believe it will totally eliminate private insurance.
Let's eliminate all of that.
But would you support changing the dietary guidelines?
Yes.
The food pyramid, what people
Yes.
to reduce red meat specifically.
Yes, I would.
Raise your hand if your government plan would provide coverage for undocumented immigrants.
Where do you stand on defund the police?
This whole movement is about rightly saying we need to take a look at these budgets.
Harris asserted that ICE is perceived as the modern-day Ku Klux Klan.
Are you aware that there's a perception?
I see no.
Are you aware that there's a
that
perception?
puts ICE in the same category as the KKK? Is that what you're asking me? I see no parallel.
I'm not finished.
I see none.
And yeah, I am radical. We need to get radical about what we are doing.
Now, I know the audio wasn't great on that, so let's go over some of the things she wants to do. She has been in favor of banning fracking. So, she does have a war on energy because God knows under the Biden-Harris administration, gas prices and energy costs went through the roof. We know that. So what makes you believe that that's going to change? It won't. Now, what's really funny is all these issues like defund the police. So she has a war on law and order, right? We don't need any more cops. Yeah, okay. Some of the cities with the highest crime rates are the ones being run by Democrats, not Republicans. Some of the safest cities in this country are being run by Republican mayors. I think we do need the police because when the criminals are knocking on your door, and in many liberal cities, you're not able to carry a gun or have a gun in your house, who are you going to call? The police, right? That same police department that you decided under using liberal policies to gut so that they don't have adequate police officers to man a shift. So you'll call 911. They'll say, yeah, we'll send help. And it never comes because either the local police department or the sheriff's department or the state troopers don't have enough cops to answer all the calls. So help doesn't come as the criminals kick in your door. Is that what you want? Is that the America you want to live in? They want to let illegal aliens vote and give them health care. She's all in favor of that. Don't let her lie to you. She's in favor of that. Now, why does the Democrat Party want illegal aliens to vote? Because Democrats are losing voters like crazy. More and more minorities, whether you want to say African American, Mexican, anything, any group of people that are in that category of minorities are leaving the Democrat Party. And they're voting for either Republicans or they're voting for another party. So the Democrat Party needs voters. And that's what they're hoping with illegal aliens. Oh, and by the way, we can't use illegal aliens, right? We can't say that. It's racist. It's wrong. I'm going to call them illegal aliens because that's what they are. You don't like it? Too bad. What else do they want to do? Give illegal aliens Medicare. Right. Give them benefits that they didn't pay for. How are those benefits being paid for? Hello. The American citizens are paying for those benefits, even though many American citizens aren't able to even utilize those benefits because they're being used for illegal aliens. Is that right? Is that the kind of America you want? That's a war on our healthcare. A healthcare system that is already taxed ever since Obamacare was passed. You remember the things that the Democrats told us? Hey, pass this Obamacare, and if you like your doctor, you'll be able to keep them. Yeah, if you like your plan, you'll be able to keep them. Many of us lost our coverage, and the doctors that we used to go to, we no longer can go to because they don't accept our medical plan. So Obamacare really worked, right? Yeah. So ever since then, our healthcare system has been taxed. And when you give those benefits to illegal aliens who have not paid into it, then American citizens that have paid for those benefits aren't able to utilize them because, unfortunately, benefits don't come in abundance. There's only a certain amount of benefits that can be distributed to people. That's the fact that we're facing today. What else does she want to do? Abolish ICE. She thinks ICE is the same as the Taliban. No, they're not. And there's many other things that she wants to do that should scare the living hell out of you. She says, right? I heard an interview with Kamala Harris, and she says, on day one of my administration, I will tackle inflation. Really? Day one? You're in power now. Why don't you do something now? No, you won't. Because if you do something now, we don't, or the people that you want to vote for you will no longer have an incentive to vote for you, right? I mean, it's the funniest campaign I've ever seen in my life. She's running as, I will do all these things once I'm president. Well, you're in power now. You're the Vice President of the United States of America. There's a whole lot you could do, but you're not going to do it, are you? No. Instead, you want to con the American people into voting for you with the promise, I will fix everything. And you won't, because you're inadequate to even do it. But there's other things to talk about, because let's watch this video called Our Forgotten Cities. Let's see what this has to say.
My name is Ed Moy.
My name is Sheila Armstrong.
I'm a retired Pennsylvania state policeman.
I am a lifelong Philadelphian. We have so many businesses down here that is shut and closed.
And it's gotten even worse since Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have been in charge of this country.
The dilapidated buildings in my community, even the churches is having a difficult time keeping up. We have seen jobs decrease and job opportunity decrease. This is why I am convinced that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris is bad for my Black community.
Today, everyone is struggling.
For the past 4 years, our overdoses have increased.
And that's due to the policies of Biden and Harris, without a doubt.
Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are allowing illegal people to come into our country.
Murder rates going up, all crimes have gone up.
That is the issue of Joe Biden, Kamala Harris supporting relaxed laws, defunding the police, open borders. This is what's messing up our city. This is what's messing us up as America. Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and the Democrat Party do not care about our low-income Black communities. If they did, they would have been fixed the problems. This is why we were better under the Trump administration. Trump heard our problems and began to solve them.
If we don't elect Donald Trump, these neighborhoods are going to turn into war zones worse than they are.
I believe that Donald Trump will make Philadelphia safe again. The people of Philadelphia will be safer with Donald Trump as president. We were safe before, and it's time for us to be safe again.
My name is Bruce Lavelle. I'm almost a 30-year business owner. I want to show you my Atlanta. Now, the city of Atlanta and a lot of other cities that were under that defund Biden-Harris regime, I know for a fact Atlanta's almost a third understaffed with police. Created a very bad situation. The Biden-Harris administration has pretty much stripped away the camaraderie amongst the great, brave men and women that serve and protect, but with all the chaos, all the messaging of defund, all the sitting back and letting communities burn has been a tremendous burden on attracting good, quality men and women who want to wear that badge. Failed policies that have created a vacuum of civil unrest, of murder, mayhem, and chaos around this great nation. It is on the back of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and their entire regime. Joe Biden, Kamala Harris have left great communities like mine here in Atlanta behind. They really could care less. Atlanta's been very good to us, but it's not looking so good under the Biden-Harris regime. The hope for Atlanta is the hope that we need President Trump elected November 5th.
Very powerful video. And there's a lot of truth. The two cities they only talked about was Philadelphia and Atlanta, but there are more cities. Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco. You take a look at any of these cities under Democrat rule, and you see just how destroyed they are. That's the reason more and more people are leaving these liberal states like California, New York. They're leaving cities like Chicago, San Francisco. They're leaving to come to Republican states like Florida, like Texas, and South Carolina. Because now for those of you watching the show, you will be able to see just how run down the cities are. Is that a place you want to raise your children? I wouldn't. That's what happens when liberal policies are implemented. It's one of the number one reasons why I left New York. And I only lived in the state of New York. I didn't live in New York City. which was worse. But because of liberal policies, I ran away from New York. I escaped New York and I came to South Carolina. But I can see it in South Carolina too, with some of the cities that are being run down here, because some cities, even in South Carolina, have Democrat mayors. And what do? The exact same thing every mayor who's a Democrat is doing. They're doing the exact same stuff because it's the exact same policies that they're pushing. So, is that the future you want? Because that's the future you will get under a Kamala Harris and a Tim Walz administration. But let's listen to what Judge Joe Brown, because this video went viral, of his opinion on Kamala Harris, because apparently he knows a lot about Harris. But let's listen to what he has to say
about Kamala Harris. How you feel about her?
She's a piece of shit. I was in California. She lacked professional competence, and she worked on it by hiking up her hemline when she needed influence rather than researching. She's always tried to do the casting couch to get where she wants. Now, the problem is that'll get somebody to a certain level quickly, but you can't get past that level if you don't have competence and talent. So my thing about it is if I'm crude about it, in this city years ago, I used to represent a whole bunch of pimps and hoes, and I know a hoe when I see one. And I say this, I don't care, women, you do what you want to do if you want to have recreational sex, but when you do the casting couch or anything else for professional purposes to get paid or advance, you a hoe. And she's old hoe. And the problem is what is she supposed to do? Somebody, one of her sycophant slaves, comes up and unwraps her in a carpet naked at Putin's feet, and he says, oh yeah, I'm Julius Caesar. He said, no, ho, I got better stuff here already. Plus, I don't want you anyway, you old woman. Get on up, you know. Or Xi Jinping, is he supposed to be impressed? She's doing word salad. Well, we're here today because China and the U.S. are here today, and that's why we have to agree on what we're doing here today. Like, fool, what did you just say? You know, did you say anything?
Hey, Judge, why don't you tell us what you really think? Because, geesh. I think there's, obviously there's a reason that went viral, because he just tells it how it is. He knows a lot about Harris. And her record is coming out. Now, the media doesn't want you to believe any of the things that she did when she was the district attorney. She's running as a great prosecutor, but she's not. She's far from it. But I'm not saying she slept her way to the top. But let's face it, this is an individual, Kamala Harris, that I could play videos of the first, it was entitled The First Time We Met Kamala Harris, and she was dating at the time this talk show host, Montel Williams. This is before she even got into politics. I could play that video, but what's the point? Because when you see how she dressed back then, when Judge Brown says she's a hoe, that's exactly what she looked like. Now, she might have spruced herself up and might have changed some things about her now, but let's face it. Did she really do anything as a vice president, even as district attorney? Has she done anything, even as a senator? No. And now she expects you, the American people, to vote for her for president. So what What will she do? Anything? As vice president, she was in charge of the border. How did that go? Well, we see millions and millions of people are flooding into this country. I mean, they say 10, 15, as high as 20 million illegal aliens have invaded this country. That's under her watch because she was the border czar, right? She was in charge of the border, even though now she says, no, I wasn't. I really wasn't. And the media is going to cover for her and say that she wasn't, but she was. We have a video of Biden calling her the border czar. But there's a lot of rebranding that has to happen. And what's even more scary than that is if you go to her website. Usually, if you go to a candidate's website, you'll be able to see what policies or what her agenda is. They'll have it up there. She has nothing. Nothing. There's usually a page that you could be able to read. Where does she stand on different issues? There's not that on her website. And there's a reason behind that. There's a reason she doesn't want you to know where she stands on issues. Because if she did tell you, it would scare the living hell out of you. Because where she stands on every single issue is the most radical stance you could take. And honestly, her number one agenda is abortion. Or as she calls it, reproductive rights. Because apparently in this country, if she's president of the United States, she wants you to believe that women have the right to kill their unborn children. That's a woman's right to kill an unborn child. And my question to you and to anyone who is pro-choice, I have this question for you. What did that child do? What crime did that child commit in order to be convicted for the death penalty? Because that's what abortion is to the unborn child. And usually in this country, when we sentence someone to death, it's because that person killed somebody or committed a crime that warrants being put to death, right? So again, I'm going to ask, what crime did that child commit to warrant the death penalty? Please. You can write it into the show. You can write it in the comments. You can write it, email me. Please, I would love to know. Because honestly, there isn't a crime that child commit that would warrant getting the death penalty. But under a Kamala Harris administration, she will do everything in her power to make sure that women in this country will be able to kill their children. Honestly, and then when you take a look at her running mate, the governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz, he's even worse than her on the agenda of abortion, because as the governor, he passed the most radical laws concerning abortions. He passed a law that up until the point of birth, you can abort a baby. And if for some reason the abortion is botched and the child survives the abortion, that child that's fighting for its life will not get medical attention because of that bill that he signed into law in the state of Minnesota. Is that right? No, it's completely wrong. And it's sinister and it's evil. Honestly, I'm not going to call, you might as well just call this ticket that the Democrat Party has put together as the abortion ticket. Because both candidates have radical stances on abortion. I never thought I'd see the day where the Democrats aren't hiding who they really are. It's because I remember doing a show maybe sometime last year, where I said the Democrat Party has been possessed by the spirit of Jezebel. And as the spirit of Jezebel, one of the things that that spirit pushes for is abortions, the killing of innocent blood, the killing of unborn children. And when I look at Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, I see two people that are completely possessed by that spirit of Jezebel. So I totally believe that Harris and Walz are today's modern day Jezebel and Ahab. And if you don't know who that is, go check the Old Testament. Go read up on Jezebel and King Ahab, and you'll see exactly what type of people they were. And the same agendas that they pushed, those two people pushed, is what this ticket's going to push if they get elected in November. It's scary. But I'm going to ask you a question. Is this really a ticket that you want to vote for? Because let's get to know a little bit about Governor Walz. I know I said some things about him, but let's hear. What are some of the dirty little secrets that this governor has?
Weirder than signing a bill into law that requires schools to stock tampons in boys' bathrooms. Or weirder than signing legislation allowing minors to receive sex change operations. Try electing the man who signed those bills, Vice President of the United States. Enter Chief Weirdo Tim Walz. As governor of Minnesota, Walz supported legislation that endangers minors, hurts women, and puts radical ideology ahead of common sense. Now Kamala wants Walz to enforce those laws on a national scale. Tim Walz, too weird, too radical.
Yeah. That ad is completely true. He passed these really radical laws. This is how radical this law was or is. And it has everything to do with gender affirming care. If a child, for whatever reason, thinks he wants to be a transgender and decide he wants to change his sex, but the parents of this child think, no, let's hold off on that. Let's wait until maybe you're a little bit older to decide whether you really want to do this or not. Under the law that Governor Walz signed into law, the state could take away that child and give that child the affirming care that that child wants. A child as young as 8 or 10 could be taken away from their parents. As a matter of fact, if a child from another state somehow runs away and somehow is able to get to Minnesota, the state of Minnesota will help that child to transition without telling or notifying the parents where that child is. Does that sound logical to you, or does that sound radical to you? As a parent, that's extremely radical. Yet that's the stance this governor took in the state of Minnesota. You should be shaking your head and saying, what the heck is going on? And it's not just that state. Other states have done that. Now, Tim Walz would like you to believe that he's a moderate. But when you take a look at every stance that he's taken and the history that he has as governor, he's not a moderate by any stretch of the imagination. He's as radical as Kamala Harris was or is. Just listen to Tim Walz in this video that went viral where he talks about what his opinion is on socialism. Let's hear. Listen.
Progressive values. One person's socialism is another person's neighborliness.
Wow. Just look at that man for a second. For those of you watching the show, you're able to see him. Look how creepy he looks. But yeah, someone's socialism is another person's neighborlyism. See, that should prove to you that he's a socialist, because socialists are very good at rebranding their ideas. Now, he admits that some people call his stances as socialism, but he'll say, no, it's not socialism. I'm just being neighborlyism. Yeah, like, honestly, if you take a look at your stances, you're a demented Mr. Rogers. That's what you are. So let's listen to him again. Let's hear what this moron has to say.
Don't ever shy away from our progressive values. One person's socialism is another person's neighborliness.
Yeah. No, it's not. At least you admit the truth is in there. Progressive policies are socialists at nature. They are. Every single policy that this man and what this ticket, as Harris and Walz, this ticket is going to push is going to be socialist. That's the foundation for this ticket, socialism. Because that's now the foundation for the Democrat Party. Yeah. But if you go on, Kamala Harris's website, you won't find any stance that they have. Yet, you go to Donald Trump's, you will. I'm going to take a few minutes and pull up this website. You can actually go to Donald Trump's website, and you'll see it's called Agenda 47. Here are just some of the 20 promises that Donald Trump will make or is making if you elect him president this November. These are the 20 promises he's going to try to keep. Let's see. Number 1, seal the border and stop migrant invasion or the illegal alien invasion. Number 2, carry out the largest deportation operation in American history. Number 3, end inflation and make American affordable again. 4, make America a dominant energy producer in the world by far. Number 5, stop outsourcing and turn the United States into a manufacturing superpower. Number 6, largest tax cuts for workers and no tax on tips. That's just 6 of them. There's the other ones. There's all 20, which you can go check it out. Go to his website, read his agenda, and ask yourself, can you support someone that's pushing this agenda? I can. I can honestly support every single agenda, all 20 of these. Now, do I believe he's going to achieve all 20? No. It would be nice if he did, but no. It's going to be tough. It's going to be hard for him to do this. I mean, do I honestly believe he's going to be able to end inflation? No, he won't be able to. He didn't when he was president. Because unfortunately, if you want to know how inflation is created, inflation is only created because of government overspending. So when the government overspends, inflation happens. And let's face it, is the federal government really going to rein in spending under a Republican ticket or even a Democrat ticket? No, not yet. Not until we get worse, until things get really worse. But he does have an advantage. Donald Trump has an advantage because we're able to take a look at the 4 years that he was president and compare it to the 4 years under the Biden-Harris ticket and see how things were. And really, there's only one question that Donald Trump has to ask, and he needs to keep asking the American people this one question. Are you better off than you were 4 years ago? Because check out this ad. Because in this ad, he does ask that question.
President Ronald Reagan, who has a few questions for you.
All of you will go to the polls, will stand there in the polling place and make a decision. I think when you make that decision, it might be well if you would ask yourself, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? Is it easier for you to go and buy things in the stores than it was 4 years ago? Is there more or less unemployment in the country than there was 4 years ago? Is America as respected throughout the world as it was? Do you feel that our security is as safe, that we're as strong as we were 4 years ago? If you don't think that this course that we've been on for the last 4 years is what you would like to see us follow for the next 4, then I could suggest another choice that you have.
President Trump. He'll make America great again.
Yeah, it's a powerful ad. And it is an important question to ask, even yourself. Are you better off than you were 4 years ago? I know I'm not. Is it easier for you to buy groceries for your family? No. Does it cost you more to buy groceries for your family? Yes. Is it easier for you to pay for gasoline to put in your car? No. Is it easier for you to pay the electric bill? No. No. That's a very important question to keep in mind. Because if for some reason you think, for whatever reason, you don't like Donald Trump, and I get it. Some people like him, some people don't. Do you honestly believe that things will get better with Harris as the president of the United States? I want you to evaluate the last 4 years. Ask yourself a serious question. Do you think things will get better? Will the cost of food go down? Harris says that she's going to push for price locking, which, if you know anything about that, that's a socialist thing. And when a socialist government does that, the results are not very good. The results, it creates more inflation. Her radical agenda on energy, do you think the price of gas is going to go down? No, it's just going to go up because she has a war on fossil fuels. What's gasoline? It's fossil fuel. So the price of gas is going to go up. The price of energy is going to continue to go up. Is she going to rein in spending? No, she won't. She'll continue to spend the way that they've been spending. But let's watch one more ad for Donald Trump. And let's see if maybe this ad might convince some of you that are still sitting on the fence to finally vote for Donald Trump. Let's check it out.
We can now project the winner of the presidential race. Donald Trump wins the presidency. What started off as unlikely, impossible, is now reality.
I will fight for you with every breath in my body, and I will never, ever let you down.
We have a president who actually fulfilled the promises he made during the campaign. From securing the border to foreign policy.
He now has a record as president that's pretty damn impressive. Breaking news out of Palm Beach,
The FBI has executed an unprecedented search warrant at President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate. The former president has both sides of the political aisle up in arms.
It is a dangerous and unstable moment in American history.
The Justice Department has just indicted former President Donald Trump.
For 7 years, they hated him, they targeted him, they hunted him.
This is the epitome of the abuse of the prosecutorial power to preempt political decisions.
I never thought anything like this could happen in America. The only crime that I have committed is to fearlessly defend our nation from those who seek to destroy it. The more that a broken system tells you that you're wrong, the more certain you should be that you must keep pushing ahead. They want to take away my freedom because I will never let them take away your freedom. They want to silence me because I will never let them silence you. They're not coming after me, they're coming after you, and I just happen to be standing in their way, and I will never be moving. On November 5th, 2024, justice will be done. We will take back our country, and we will make America great again. America will always rise to every challenge and overcome every danger.
Donald Trump seems to always get stronger when challenged. These types of things, I think, give him strength.
When I'm reelected, I will totally obliterate the deep state. As long as we have pride in our beliefs, courage in our convictions, and faith in our God, then we will not fail.
You hear Republicans, Republican talking heads, Republican talk show hosts talk about how this is the most important election in American history. Whether that is or not is debatable. But this is a very important election. And you have to decide, look, I know that if you look at the history of this show, you know that in the primary, I didn't support Donald Trump in the Republican primary. My guy was the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis. I thought he was a much better candidate than Donald Trump. But Trump won the primary, something Kamala Harris didn't do. I mean, take a look at these two primaries, the Republican and the Democrat primary, and how they were ran. The Republicans ran a very good primary, and the winner was Donald Trump. Democrats, Kamala Harris was not running for president. It was Joe Biden. And once he secured the nomination, he then stepped down or was forced out. And then the Democrat Party says to the 14 million Democrat voters that voted for Joe Biden, you are too stupid to pick the nominee. So we are going to pick the nominee for you. And they have picked the vice president. They didn't have to pick the vice president. They didn't have to pick Harris. They could have picked somebody else during the convention, which is happening this week. They could have picked somebody else, but they didn't. And the Democrat Party has shown you that they'll tell you that they're fighting for democracy. Yet, the more and more that they act and the more that they do things with this upcoming election, it shows you that the Democrat Party truly is the tyrannical party in this country, because the Republicans at least ran a primary. And when Donald Trump won, they didn't say, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to pick the nominee, and the delegates are going to vote for the nominee. And here's the nominee, Nikki Haley or Ron DeSantis or whoever, fill in the blank. The Democrats did that. They picked a candidate in Kamala Harris who did not get one vote from any voters that are Democrats for president of the United States. And you have to think, do you really want her to be the president of the United States? The most radical senator in the Senate, in the history of the Senate, and I would argue the most radical vice president in American history. And if somehow she wins in November, she will be the most radical president in American history. Worse than Woodrow Wilson, worse than even FDR. She will be the most radical. And she will push her agenda. Something to think about when you're getting ready to vote this November. Now, one more thing before we leave. About a couple months ago, this is after a little, I think it was a couple days, maybe a week after the debate that Biden had with Trump, that I was in a Dollar Tree. Now, if you know, I have a history of finding books at a Dollar Tree from some prominent left-wing nut jobs like Bernie Sanders. This was called Guide to Political Revolution. Found this at a Dollar Tree. What a fun. If you can get your hands on this book, read it, because this is basically what Harris' agenda is going to be. This is pretty much it. And what's crazy is Harris is more left-wing, or more of a left-wing nut job than even Bernie. But this was a book that I found at a Dollar Tree. If you remember, James Comey wrote a book, A Higher Loyalty. Found that at a Dollar Tree, $1.25 for that. Now I have a new book to add to the collection. And I just laughed. I really did laugh when I saw this on the shelf, because it was right after the debate that Biden had with Trump, because it is Joe Biden's book, Promise Me, Dad, a book that he wrote. I think this came out in 2016. It hit the Dollar Tree for $1.25. And I picked it up because I thought this best represents Biden's time as president. That a book written by the President of the United States somehow ends up at a Dollar Tree for $1.25. And then once I bought it, he then drops out of the race. I mean, something I didn't think was really going to happen, that he was honestly going to get, forced out, drop out, whatever you want to call it. But after you watch that debate, it made sense why the Democrats had to push him out, because there's something wrong with that with President Biden. There is. And that debate showed just how mentally gone he is. But the Democrats have made a mistake voting or pushing for Kamala Harris as president. And I think, I don't know, those of you, those 14 Democrat voters that voted for Biden should really punish the Democrat Party for forcing Kamala Harris on you. And you should vote for somebody else. I don't expect all 14 million of you to vote for Donald Trump. It would be nice, but let's face it, I don't think that's going to happen. But there are third-party candidates like RFK Jr., Jill Stein, who's running as, I think she's running on the Green Party ticket. You can vote for her. She's just as crazy as Harris. She's just not going to get any votes because no one who runs third party is really going to get votes except for RFK Jr. That's it. But it's very important to get out and vote this November. And for those of you still sitting on the fence on whether you're going to vote for Donald Trump or not, I hope you take the time to actually go over to his website, read Agenda 47, read it all the 20 promises that Donald Trump has, and come to a conclusion on who you're going to support. Because it is important for you to get out and vote this November. And I just hope and pray that somehow Kamala Harris does not win the election. I hope and pray for this country. Because if she does, the Harris-Walz ticket will be coming for our children, whether it's through abortions with unborn children or whether it's pushing the radical LGBTQ plus agenda and the affirming gender care agenda that comes with it. So until next time, I'm Don Gardner. This has been the Christian Patriot Report. May God bless you. May God bless America. And may you take the time to go over to our website at dongardner.weebly.com and follow us on social media. Because I know that, we're going to try to do more shows. And we're going to try to address and show just how radical this ticket is for President of the United States and just how this is the most radical ticket in American history and why you should never vote for him. But until next time, I'm Don Gardner. I will see you guys later. May God bless you and God bless America. Bye-bye, everybody.